Hello everyone. Today I'll be talking about the changing nature of media audience. In this regard, Alvin Toffler has given few concepts regarding the various changes that have come in the media and communication world. In his book Future Shock, Alvin Toffler talks about three waves that came in the entire human history. The first one was the agriculture revolution, the second one was the industrial revolution, and the third one was the computer revolution. Adam Ghazali, another author, adds a fourth wave to this particular concept, the fourth wave being information age. But he doesn't stop here. He also talks about the five wavelets that are within in this particular information age. The first wavelet was when internet came. Second, universal adoption of email. Third, when mobile phone came. Fourth, formation of virtual communities through social media. And fifth, introduction of smartphones. Throughout my lecture, the reference point for this particular theme would be information age. That is, I would be talking about basically pre-information age era and post-information age era. Also, new media in general would be the common thread of my entire lecture. Now with this, let's move on to the first point. Multitasker and concurrent usage. Today's audience has become somewhat a multitasker. While one may say that multitasking is a myth, as one can only switch between multiple tasks and cannot execute all the tasks at one time. Before industrial age came, there were only few media technologies and they were not that much popular. But with information age, there had been an explosion of media technologies as well as media content, due to which there are many media technologies that are available with the masses. For example, an average person might possess a smartphone, a television, radio, newspaper, and many other technologies as well. Now with all these technologies, the media audience are indulging in concurrent usage. Well, concurrent usage could be defined as the usage in which a person is indulging into usage of multiple mode of platforms of media. For example, let's say you are watching a television and at the same time using a smartphone while the program is on or while the ad is on. Not just this, while you are using a smartphone, even inside the smartphone, you would be opening multiple tabs. Also, the daily life chores that we execute, we are doing this with the help of media technologies. For instance, while eating, we are also watching television. Now, there could be various reasons that could be attributed to this multitasking and concurrent usage. Maybe they are bored, maybe it's a bit more fun, or maybe it has become a necessity of life. Now I'll talk about the second point, that is in-depth versus superficial. In today's age, we won't find lots of media users who are deep divers. Basically, what they are doing is swimming in the shallow waters. These media audience, they have a hyperlink brain. Hyperlink brain is the tendency of a person to follow hyperlinks and not just stick to a simple text, the original text. Not just this, media technologies are also resorting to various tricks. For instance, they are using hyperlinking, autoplay, clickbait, infinite scrolling, content suggestions. These are the various tricks which are used by media technologies to make a media audience stay on their platform. These kind of tricks actually complement the audience who is seeking novelty all the time. That is, they are seeking new content every time. And the novelty load peaks when they make frequent switch. Adam Ghazali and Larry D. Rosen have used optimal foraging theory to describe the present form of consumption which is taking place among the media audience. The way people are making switch from one technology to another technology, it is the same way a squirrel eats food. Basically, a squirrel would switch from one patch of food to another food. Similarly, the media audience is also indulging into this behavior. Today's audience, specifically the readers, they are indulging into reading text superficially. In this regard, the websites are now forced to use F and Z pattern of content creation. The audience of today are indulging into skipping, skimming, and surfing of the content. They are not consuming a content in depth. This particular phenomenon is not just limited to text. This is also common in video as well. So, there was this experiment done by Christopher Chevres and Daniel Simon, who did an experiment called Invisible Gorilla. In this, there were participants who were made to see a video and were asked to count the number of times a ball was passed by a player wearing a white shirt. While the participants were watching this, they completely ignored that there was a person wearing a gorilla suit right in the center of the video.
The correct answer is 15 passes.
Moving on to the third point, ditching the long format content. So tell me, when was the last time you watched a 3 hours long movie? When was the last time you read a book cover to cover? Now this is something which would take time, isn't it? Well, in today's world, every content has become compact, which can be attributed to a sharp decline in the attention span of the media audience. In general, long format is getting boring for the people. That is why ad makers are moving towards storytelling. Also, filmmakers are using compact, creative, non-linear storytelling format to attract the audience's attention. Also, content producers in general are decreasing the length of their films, videos, songs, blogs, and many other content that they are producing. In fact, if I talk specifically about new media, it is being dominated by short content. YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels, vlogs, memes, tweets, shorthand text, these are the examples of short content. As far as legacy media is concerned, it is suffering a huge loss. Why? Because most of the people are resorting to consumption of news on social media, due to which legacy news media platforms are unable to earn a lot of revenue. Not just this, short content is also being used to bring a change, a positive change. Short content is being used for running a particular hashtag or a particular campaign. Ronaldo's act of removing Coca-Cola bottle in front of him is one example. Another example is Elon Musk tweeting about Tesla not accepting Bitcoin. Greta's climate change movement is another such example. But before I move on to the next point, few of you might be wondering, what about binge watching? Well, this is the only exception. See, in binge watching, ideally what happens is, it is a quality content which is supplied along with a deceit. Now what is this deceit? Let's say if I ask you to watch a 12-hour long serial, would you agree to do so? I'm sure definitely not. But what if I cut it into 12 small episodes and the suspense of which would be revealed in the next episode? I'm sure definitely you would want to watch that. This is the same thing with binge watching of web series. Now, there was this study by Brian Wansink divulges how people who eat in bottomless, self-refilling bowl eat more and indulge in overconsumption rather than people who eat in a normal bowl. This is the same thing with the media audience. Moving on to the fourth point, active and empowered. Today's media audience is not just passive like the earlier audience. It has become active and is also empowered as well. While earlier information was just one way and there was no scope for feedback, but today's media technology, especially the new media technologies, have a two-way system of feedback. When internet came, people started sharing not just feedback but also started creating content and sharing them seamlessly. That is why there was a switch from seller's market to buyer's market, wherein media audience had the negotiation power. They had plenty of choice to make. It is with this empowerment that they have been able to initiate campaigns or raise a particular issue. Also, if we talk about liking a particular media content, we know that fans exist. But now, the media audience of today are not just fan. They have moved from fan to fandom. They are actively vouching for revival of their favorite character. They are actively protesting or boycotting a movie if they find that the ending or the plot is not up to the mark. So this is the power which the media audience has got because of the new media technologies. Moving on to the next point, becoming smart, extravagant, and explorer. Today's audience is becoming pretty smart. They are actively choosing the content that they wish to watch, and they are getting a taste of the global content, due to which their taste has also diversified. They are rejecting the established tropes and cliches of cinema, and that is why we can say for surety that content is the new king. Now, as far as the quality content is concerned, OTT has become a sort of mecca for all the good content that can be found. Not just this, while earlier it was perceived that audience were a freeloader and were not willing to spend money, this perception has changed a lot with coming of quality content in the market. Now, the audience are opening up their wallets to get subscription of OTT platforms. Also, they are spending a lot of money to acquire media technologies that would enhance their experience of entertainment. Not just this, with various information that the audience is receiving, the media audience in general is becoming immunized to fake news because they have been subjected to it for a lot of times. Also, they are ditching the old orthodox thinking. They are accepting new forms of content, and also they are watching content that is uncensored. Moving on to the next point, dwindling of attention. As mentioned earlier, there has been a sharp decline in attention span of the media audience. According to research, our attention span has markedly decreased in 15 years. While earlier in 2000 it was 12 seconds, in 2015 it has reached to a low of 8.2 seconds. It is in this regard, Herbert Simon, an economist, had said that information wealth, that is, its excess, is causing poverty, that is, decline in attention among the people. Now, this blame could be pinned on the media technologies which are resorting to various tricks to attract the attention of the audience. In fact, these media technologies are the ones that are creating these distractions in the first place. The fickle-minded behavior of the audience is worrying, as marketers have to scratch their head to come up with content that the audience would like. Now, as you can see from the PPT, there are certain statistics that have been given regarding the attention span. On the average web page, users will read at most 28% of the words during an average visit. 20% is most likely. The average page visit lasts less than a minute, and users often leave web page just in 10 to 20 seconds. There are a few other statistics as well. An office worker on an average will check their email boxes 30 times every hour. The average user picks up their phone more than 1500 times a week, taking up an average of 3 hours 16 minutes a day. Moving on to the next point, increase in consumption. As you can see from the image itself, that on an average a person is spending at least 58 minutes on Facebook, 53 minutes on Instagram, 40 minutes on YouTube, 35 minutes on Snapchat, and 3 minutes on Twitter. Now, this is an average statistics. According to Hootsuite report, in a population of 7.8 billion people, there are 7 billion mobile phone users. So you can just imagine the number of people having a mobile phone. Statistica report estimates that people spend 474 minutes daily on media, 395 minutes of which is dedicated to digital media. Phenomenon such as too much information and too much choice are becoming real. What is too much information and too much choice? Basically, there has been a bombardment of content in our everyday life, due to which the people are not able to process this information, and hence these phenomenon, that is too much information and too much choice. Because at the end of the day, the audience is getting confused what to view and what to skip. Moving on to the next point, urge to update. Now, media audience has become hooked to various forms of media content and is consuming them at a very fast rate. Because as such, there is plethora of content available on new media technologies. Even though the audience is trying to cope up with the rapid pace of the content that is emanating from the devices and technologies, but they are unable to do so. Why? Because there is a lot of it, due to which people are getting anxious. Today, the flow of information is non-linear and highly haphazard, and content is coming from every possible direction. While earlier it was pretty simple and information processing was easier as information was coming in a linear way and it was just one-way processing. Many of the users have also developed an urge to be real-time, because it might be a necessity of the job, maybe they have a habit, but either of the case, the audience has become accustomed to checking their phone regularly, and that is why most of the times they try to remain online so that they do not miss out on any important information. Now, regarding the inbox zero, basically it is the tendency of a person to check every message in his mobile phone or to check mails regularly, because the person doesn't want to keep any of the message unread. Now, this is purely a psychological thing which is happening to the media audience. Moving on to the next point, anytime, anywhere and all time consumption. The breaking of synchronity of media has led to rise of the concept of every time is prime time. Now, if you all remember, before this explosion of content happened, the prime time used to be ideally from 8 to 10 p.m. But now there is no dedicated slot for prime time because every time is prime time. Presence of personal devices has enabled people to consume the content whatever they want to at their own time. Also, people are often going online and making attempt to remain available online all the time so as not to miss out something which they deem as important. But there is a catch. All-time availability on the new media comes with all-time distraction, and that is why the media audience in general is having a hard time to deal with other complexities of the life. In this regard, there was a study done by Ellen J. Reid which confirms the same. That is, most of the people of his study were consuming media while eating food, while going out, or even when they are sitting idle, they are checking their mobile phones. Moving on to the next point, hooked to dopamine. Dopamine is the hormone which is responsible for pleasure and mood elevation. It is produced when we receive certain rewards like sex, shopping, or smelling a favorite food. In today's time, we are getting dopamine boost every time we are receiving a social media notification. Not just this, even in general, when we are consuming a media content, we are getting dopamine hit. And it can be attributed to the rewiring of the brain that has happened over the time. James Wold did an experiment on mouse in which he wired the brain of the mouse with a liver. The liver, when pressed, used to give dopamine boost to the mouse. The mouse, after receiving the dopamine boost, started liking it, and that is why it kept pressing the lever again and again until it died. Media technologies have made the media audience a dopamine seeker, and they are getting addicted to this dopamine. And that is the problem with dopamine, because many people suffer from addiction to this dopamine. Now, in this regard, there is an analogy of smartphones being a slot machine. Slot machine as in the gaming machine which are used by gamblers to do gambling. Now, when someone is indulging into use of slot machine, usually the reward is irregular, and it is this irregularity of reward which actually compels the people to use the slotting machine, and it is this irregularity which is compelling the people to use the slot machine. Similarly, mobile phones and other media technologies are made in a way that they give irregular rewards. Since the frequency is irregular, that is why it leads to addiction. Now, moving on, there are few other changes that I have observed, and I am going to cover them now. One change that has occurred among the media audience is the excessive dependence. The media audience of today are depending excessively on their media devices for various needs and gratification. And this has been the prophecy of Marshall McLuhan, where he said that media is nothing but an extension of our body parts. But I would like to add further that these media devices have excelled to an extent that they are replacing the functions of our body parts. For instance, for math calculation, ideally we could be using our brain, but instead we use mobile phone for doing so. And over a period of time, we disable ourselves to an extent that we are unable to do these calculations on our own. This is the offloading part, which brings me to the concept of cognitive offload. In cognitive offload, the humans have developed a tendency to offload various things. For example, passwords, important information related to their life on their mobile phones. And ultimately, they are unable to recall because they have offloaded all of these things in their mobile phones. A similar effect to this is Google effect, which is also known as digital amnesia, which is nothing but the tendency of people to forget that information which they trust is available online. Another trend that I have observed is that the media audience in general has become impatient and loves distraction. The people in today's time are indulging in interruptions and sometimes self-interruptions. And this is the reason why you are checking your mobile phones even when there is no notification. And this could be termed as self-interruption. Impatience has reached to an all-time high as people are checking their device all the time. And I have already explained you few of the phenomenon like inbox zero, which are the reason why people are checking their devices again and again. When it comes to love for distraction, I would like to discuss two concepts with you. One is iPhone effect and the other one is phubbing. In iPhone effect, what happens is basically in a group setting, one person would take out his mobile phone. Seeing this, others would also take out their phone, which in turn would terminate the conversation that was happening originally. Moving on to the term phubbing, as you can see from the image, the girl is looking at the guy and the guy is busy in his phone. This is an apt example of phubbing, that is, snubbing or ignoring your partner. The last trend that I'm going to cover now is becoming nocturnal. Basically, the media audience, because they have a complex life and because they have lots of things to execute, they are indulging in media consumption at the nights, and that is why they have become nocturnal. So, let's say they work the entire day and in the night they are going to check out the social media notifications or are going to indulge in binge watching. Sometimes it so happens that during the entire day, the person might not be doing something. So, in this case, the person in the night would wake up and indulge into media usage, basically to take revenge from the fact that his entire day was unproductive. And this is known as revenge bedtime procrastination. With this, I come to the end of my lecture, but before this, you might want to know what has remained the same for the media audience. Well, the only thing that has remained constant for the media audience has been their unpredictability. It is because of this unpredictability that the audience is liking a cringe content and giving it millions of views, and on the other hand, a good quality content might not get even noticed.